Hello, and welcome to the Some Kind of Mystic podcast, where we dive deep into the mystical, the spiritual, and the raw, unpredictable journey of being fully human. I'm your host, Jessie Herman, a life coach, energy healer, mother, and channel for the non-physical entity group, Vagrian. In this show, we explore what it means to live with purpose, wonder, and an open heart. So if you've ever felt like you're walking your own unique path or seeking your own unique truth, know that you are some kind of mystic too. This episode's guest is Brian Scott, the brilliant mind behind the Reality Revolution YouTube channel. Known for his meditations, activations, and hypnosis sessions, Brian's journey took a profound turn after surviving a near-death experience where a bullet literally bounced off his back. He then encountered a series of life-altering shifts, ultimately leading him to explore the fascinating possibilities of parallel realities and timeline jumps. These experiences sparked a deep passion for teaching others about personal growth, reality transurfing, and the transformative power of meditation. In this conversation, we dive into Brian's favorite techniques, including teachings from Neville Goddard and his unique method for enhancing comprehension and learning. We also explore his artistic journey and how he and his wife infused their art with energy and intention. Brian's approach to self-discovery and creativity emphasizes the power of choice, co-creation, embracing the unknown in our quest to live fulfilled lives. Join us as we explore the depths of consciousness, creativity, and the limitless potential that lies within each of us. Here's Brian Scott on Some Kind of Mystic. Welcome, Brian. I'm so thrilled to have you here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's so exciting for me because, you know, we have been in touch since then, but I came across your work several years ago, I believe now, as a huge fan. I don't know, the YouTube sort of algorithm brought me to your work, and I listened to so much of your stuff with Neville Goddard, that stuff that you talk about his teachings. I listened to so many of your abundance meditations. Really, I believe that they are a key factor for me having let go of the majority of my, let's say, insecurities around having abundance and just allowing that to flow now. And, it's just such a thrill to be meeting you in person again. We did have a meeting on your end of the things, but to have you on the Some Kind of Mystic podcast, I'm so excited to introduce you to my listeners. So welcome so much for being here, and thank you.
Thank you for those kind words. It's an honor. I really enjoyed our conversation last time, and I love talking about this stuff. So thank you for having me.
Yeah. So this podcast, we talk really about, the origin story of people in some ways.
Right.
How did you get from regular human being to, with all the struggles and being in this world where, sometimes it can seem like it's a bit of an effort to be a human, to a space where you are really in a space of being in service to others all the time. You have this passion to deliver this content to people. I see that huge bookcase next to you. I suspect it's full of fantastic and fascinating teachings. And so what brought you here?
Oh, my origin story is long. I'm sure it's similar to many people. I grew up in a very conservative Wyoming, and was taught a very conservative, by the book Christian style of religion. And I was always, from the very beginning, just kind of questioning the legitimacy of what I was reading. And I was around people, and why aren't people questioning this? Some of the stuff I'm reading and hearing is insane. It doesn't make any sense. And so, but I had this deep desire to learn, to know, and it overwhelmed me. I've always been somebody, I think my soul's purpose has been to just seek information. I think I'm just like a recorder of information, like I'm some sort of archaeologist from another galaxy that's just gathering as much information. So I've always felt like I have this overwhelming desire every moment to be reading. And so for a long time of my life, I was just somebody that had learned how to speed read and learned. And so, while my friends are out partying on the weekend, I'm sitting there reading, my second book of the day. And so that filled me up, and it was great. And then, you get into, you go through, so of course I love college and graduate school because I could just do that. And then you get into the real world, and suddenly you got to start making money. And so I sort of lost my way a little bit trying to survive, and got into hypnosis and sales, and really like a sort of corporate world where I'm gonna make money on you no matter what, like in the mortgage business during the hard times, like I'm gonna sell terrible mortgages to you, and it doesn't matter. And I had this deep emptiness, started drinking, and I had two wonderful kids, but it wasn't, this affected my relationship. I was with somebody that was also incredibly conservative, and so maybe I sort of played that out internally. I wasn't able to really go in and analyze my feelings. So I continued reading and just had this constant urge to learn about the world and the universe and God. And I would read the Bible, and I would read, every single spiritual text I could, but it felt empty. It felt
Mm.
like I just have these words, I have this thing. So um you know, my relationship did not work out. I ended up moving back to California, and I'd lost all hope. I was in a business where I had to work like 18 hours a day, and I had just like, I don't want to live anymore. You know what I mean? I've lost all hope. I'm broke. I have so much um debt that I could not pay off, and I felt hopeless. There's literally nothing I can do to get out of the situation that I'm in. I've lost who I thought was going to be in a long-term relationship. And so then I made a commitment that, okay, there's no other way for me to overcome this. It's either give up entirely, or I'm gonna follow some of the stuff I read, and I'm gonna just become like a sort of astronaut and experiment. So I started meditating heavily, and to try to go beyond just the learning of spirituality to actually experience it. And so I went on a sort of long journey where I could reach, 6, 7 hours of meditation
Wow.
a day, and really learn how to meditate, and seek out spiritual advisors, and things are starting to go great. And I started to experience some changes in my life. I met somebody that I loved, and then one night, I talk about this in my first book. Um, I remember it because I remember the day because it was the day the Broncos won the Super Bowl, and I'm a big Bronco fan, right? So
Okay.
how could I forget? And so I'm excited, and it's one of when your team wins, you sit around and watch the TV and all the stuff they say because your team won the Super Bowl. I got to stay up all night, so I'm laying there on the couch, sort of like half passed out, like 4 in the morning, and I look up from my couch, and the back porch door has been kind of cranked open, and it had been kind of stuck. It made a noise like, you know what I mean? Like, so when people opened it, you could hear it. But then I looked up, and I was like, oh no, I left my porch door open. What have I done? My cat's gonna escape. Oh no, I
Mm.
love my cat, so I don't want. And so I get up, and I walk up to the door, and I look out, and then there's this kid pointing a gun at me, and
Wow.
and I he pulls the trigger, and I hear a pop. It's not like in the movies. It wasn't a boom. It was a pop, and I immediately slammed the door shut, and I could hear everything stopped, and I was in this infinite period of time, and I could see all the different timelines before me in this infinite, beautiful, eternal moment. And I could see where I'm laying on the floor dead over here. I'm running over here. I could see everything laid out before me as if all of time was happening at the same time. And then I can, what seemed like, a long time later, I hear the bullet hit the first pane of glass. It was double paned, so I could hear the, and then I start running, and I can hear it hit the second one, which seemed like an hour later, the second pane of glass. And as I'm running, I feel something just hit my back. And then I run into the other room, and there it was behind this backyard. So both porch doors open to my bedroom and my living room. So I run to my bedroom, and there's someone else there. And they start shooting at me as well. And
Oh my God.
I was not worried. I was I could see the bullets like I was in the Matrix. It was like
Wow.
going by. So I run outside. I, call the police. I fortunately had my phone on me, call the police. And then they eventually they found him, but the cops come over, and they're like, there's something on your back. And the bullet had bounced off my back, just bounced
Whoa.
off of it.
That's so weird.
Um, maybe the glass slowed it down, maybe there's a million infinite things, but from that moment on, I started to experience these massive changes in the world around me. These were not normal. I had new light fixtures. My kids are completely different. My kids love rock music and they're just talking about rap music as if they've always been these big fans of rap music. I'm seeing movies. I'm a big movie buff and I'm seeing movies that of course I would have known that there was a sequel to that. Like I'm like I
Yeah.
would know that.
Okay.
I go running, and I used to run through, when I get to this certain lot, I'd run catty corner across the lot because it would save time instead of going around. And I'd come up to the same lot and there's a building there and it's not new. And I go around the corner and there's like a little pond. There was no pond. Like I'm seeing changes.
Sure.
I'm having people contacting me as if they've talked to me on a regular basis. And so I thought that maybe I had experienced something had happened. Like somebody that had been in war, that I had experienced something, so I went to a psychologist and, my psychologist said, you're fine. Maybe I was in a state of shock. And so it was hard for me to accept this kind of change.
Sure.
I had studied this stuff and I had meditated on it, but there was a deep part of me that said, "Oh, this is just fun." But I had experienced as if I had shifted into this other reality,
Right. Yeah.
and I started to realize that I was in a different reality. I had to accept it. Had a physicist that taught nearby, and I made an appointment and then tried to talk to him about this, and I started to really study the science behind this and had felt like I had experienced a parallel reality. So I avidly start, okay, if this is true and I shifted, can I do this again?
Right.
So I started really experimenting with this and sort of discovered a sort of a science and found other materials that where I could shift into different timelines, into this multi-dimensional universe, and felt like I had experienced this. And I looked back, and like a couple days later or the next day, and I was like, what have you done? What have I done? My kids would barely like, oh, it's so bad, too bad for dad. Okay, well, let's watch the next channel on TV. I felt like that even when I talked to him, like I felt like I had this opportunity, all this knowledge, all these books that I'd read, and I had done nothing and I was useless and I had made no impact. I maybe could count one person that I benefited or served, I was proud of. I looked at my job that I had done, and so I just made a commitment. Today I shouldn't be alive.
Right.
Today is a day that I'm not alive, and I'm going to take advantage of this, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make a difference. To do better, to enable myself to serve others. And it's like this energy came within me when I shifted outside of myself in that
Right.
moment with this knowledge, like you can take what you did, what this you experienced, and you can teach this to other people. And you naturally, as you have found, you start naturally attracting people that are in need of this information.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
people that are desperate to find love, that are really struggling with money, that are sick.
Yeah.
And I could help them, and it was the most incredible feeling. Like I can actually help them. I started to see miracles. I can help somebody overcome being massively overweight. I can see somebody, and many of these people had given up hope. There's a point that people reach where they give up hope. They don't think it's possible. They base their life on their previous circumstances, and so it's been incredible to meet these people in the place that they're at and say it's okay. You can change. You can overcome this, and then to learn about myself in the process, as you also have learned, uh, as you start to attempt to teach these things, which I feel I have no right to teach.
Sure.
You learn more and more about it, and really the best way I found beyond reading all those books was to teach this stuff, to take that leap of faith and say, okay, I'm going to teach you what I know about this. And it blossomed an incredible level of understanding about this stuff. And the more I teach, the more I learn. And it's been just amazing to see the effect that you have on other people that come to me and say, I had given up hope. I was suicidal. I couldn't pay my debt. And all of a sudden I have this new job. I had a miracle happen, and it felt good to, I was put in the situation to sort of become a catalyst for those people. And that's what gives me joy every day, you know.
Oh, that's amazing. What an amazing, fascinating story. So, none of these bullets actually penetrated you. You got out of that with
It
nothing aside from this
bounced off my
huge,
back.
amazing shift. Wow, that is
Yeah.
fascinating. That's absolutely. And, was it the Broncos? The Broncos won. So,
Broncos won,
not
right?
entirely a bad day.
Not a bad day.
You avoided death and the Broncos won the Super Bowl. So that's
Yeah.
a great sort of outcome. But that is amazing. And so the main sort of vehicle for you reaching people has been your YouTube channel. Is that correct?
It was.
Yeah.
I had decided, okay, I'm going to write a book about this,
Okay.
you
So
know.
tell us about the
And then
book.
and then I was like, well, nobody's going to know about my book. So, okay,
Okay.
maybe I should do it. Maybe I should make some YouTube videos. And then suddenly that was the thing. It wasn't the book.
Right.
Suddenly I'm having this daily conversation with people, meeting new people, connecting to people all over the
Yeah.
world. And people are watching my videos, and I'm
Yes.
shocked. And it's so surprising and interesting. And so and I am a meditation junkie. I love meditations. As you probably can tell when you listen to my meditations, it's the music, it's the vibe, it's the feeling. So I just love creating those moments. We have these moments when you find a really great meditation and you're in it and it takes you to that next level. And so it's been really fun. I was a public speaking teacher in
Mm,
college and learned about neurolinguistic programming. And so I had this talent where I could use my voice in certain ways. And I had used the dark side of it to
for
sell
sure.
people stuff,
Yeah.
right? To sell people stuff they didn't need. And suddenly I realized, wow, I have these skills. I can use my voice in a way that can persuade and help people. So it's interesting in that. And so YouTube has been a really wonderful place to find people to bring my message and expand beyond that.
Yeah, and I'm
So
sure
for
these
sure.
same people would say that YouTube's been a wonderful place to find someone like you because it really is sort of one of these platforms now where you can find, whatever it is you're looking for. You just got to be looking for the right thing. And a lot
Yeah.
of what you are teaching or what you're sharing of these teachings is how to look for the right thing and how to sort of lean into like, there's a couple meditations I haven't quite understood yet what you're talking about. I want you to tell me what your favorite techniques are in terms of what you
Yeah,
share.
sure.
But I know you talk about the plat sometimes, or falling
All right.
back into the wish fulfilled, or
All right.
even one of
We
my
I would
favorites of yours, that isn't it wonderful, where you just say that a million times in different
yeah.
tonalities, and you
L-
can't help but think of the wonderful things in your life when that's occurring.
Yes.
So
I
yeah,
I can
share a
talk
bit
about
of
this.
what is most exciting for you right now, like the leading edge right now for you, your sort of new growth border or boundary. What's the most exciting for you right now?
It's hard to say. There's
Yeah.
lots of exciting things, but we're in reference to the plat. That's something I talked about sort of at the beginning of my channel. I explored something called reality transurfing at the beginning of my channel, reading and discussing the teachings of Vadim Zeland. It sort of got like the group of people that were teaching it kind of got politicized, and so it got tainted a little bit. And he's Russian. He doesn't like releasing information, so they started copywriting the word. So I kind of like
Mm-hmm.
laid off on that, but I still try to follow the teachings.
Sure.
Um, and so he teaches this concept that there's an energy cord that you can find if you feel it. It's between the shoulder blades on your back. It actually leads up into the back of the head, sort of like Avatar, the movie,
Yeah,
where there's
yeah.
this thing that connects to the back of the head. It's an energetic cord. And so as I found and looked into this further, Carlos Castaneda talks about this. There's an actual point in the back where there's an energy matrix. It's sort of like if you understand how physics works, then you know that we collapse waves into particles when we observe something. So generally, right in front of us, we're collapsing the particles, but there's this little area right behind us we can't look at. And so it's more like a wave form. No matter where we go, it's in a different state. It's in a
Hmm.
wave state. And that seems to be the general way in which we interact with our reality. And it's
Hmm.
like it loads up realities.
Like
So
the infinite potential portal type of thing.
right. And
Okay.
so and it's even if you just kind of focus on your back, you can notice a presence. But he started integrating, activating this plat as you do imagination, and it's a fascinating phenomenon. And there's some people that have studied the matrix of this. There's an angle that the energy goes, and there's a whole bunch of other different things that people there's people that make a living just adjusting the angle of
Yeah.
the energy point on your back beyond
Wow.
transurfing. Um, this the Isn't it wonderful meditation comes from Neville Goddard. And Neville Goddard had this technique that he taught. He had people that came to him and they would say, that isn't it wonderful? And somebody that was really struggling in poverty, and they would sit in their bathtub saying, isn't it wonderful? Isn't it wonderful? So that's where we got the idea of the isn't it wonderful meditation. The falling back, which seems similar to the plat, is another meditation technique developed by Neville Goddard. For
Mm.
people that don't know, Neville Goddard was this mystic that taught and spoke in the 60s that had this experience. Essentially, he realized he was God, and he gave a reinterpretation of the Bible, which was a godsend for me, because now I could look at the Bible and see that it does carry this amazing wisdom, and some of the crazy stuff in the Bible makes absolute sense now when it didn't before.
Right.
And suddenly it carries this wisdom. And so he says that when he started really shifting, he actually, an interesting lecture, he has hundreds of lectures, as you mentioned. For people that didn't know, I've read the majority of his lectures. And so he claims William Blake, the famous poet, came to him and said, the secret is to fall back. And so I created, and he said, I really found when I would have these manifestations, I would fall back. And so it's not really a meditation for everybody,
Right.
because some people don't like the feeling of falling back. But there's this sensation, if you focus on it, when you're in that state, when you're manifesting, you're visualizing, you're feeling, and it's a falling back, which is, I think, a connecting to that energy field behind you. And so some ways it's similar to that. And so that's what that meditation. And as you mentioned, I love to experiment
Yeah.
with these meditations. If I find a new technique, I want to share it. I want to utilize it. And so you'll find what I'm doing with these is sort of just sharing my journey with these meditation techniques. Because I know somebody out there's got to create a meditation of falling back. I want to do it, so I'm going to do it,
Yeah, so
right?
you're creating whatever it is you'd like to enjoy, and then
Right.
hopefully
Yeah,
someone else also is wanting to
exactly.
enjoy that as well. Yeah. And you are reading teachings from all kinds of different teachers. You just recently did
I
a bit
am.
of Adrian's book, but you are
Yes.
covering tons
I
and
was
tons of other
honored to do
stuff.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really amazing. I know that there's probably so many people who have really, clocked on to that sort of teachings now because of it. So thank you for that. It's really amazing.
Yeah, um it's one thing I've learned with my channel is that one of my sole purposes turns out to read channelings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
People, there's some amazing channelers that I've got to meet from my podcast, interviewing them,
For sure.
like you. And then so sometimes the format and the way these are, when I read the channeling, it's like I can feel the entity that's involved, and I've been invited to like become a conduit to help enable and put them in my and I'll add some music and stuff. And
Yeah.
so I've read Quo, I've read The Council, I've read Daniel Scranton, and it's I've gone back and read Seth. And I don't it's something for me when I read these words. I am really into it. I can it's more than just me doing a YouTube. When I'm reading these words, I lose memory of doing it
For
when I'm
sure. Yeah,
recording
you're
it.
channeling as well, for sure.
I feel, yeah, and then I'll go back and like I don't remember reading any of that, and I'm into it
Hmm.
as if I was somebody separate reading that information.
Yeah, it's amazing. And then it gets, transmitted again and again and again. Because,
Yeah,
these
you
these transmissions, they're all like, as you know, because you've been studying enough, everybody's saying the same thing in different flavors, different
right.
styles, and it's all coming back to that same truth. And that's the truth that you can feel when it's manifest, it's resonant, and we all have elements of that for sure.
But they're all unique, and I,
Yes.
I do find that they do seem similar, but they are all unique, and they need, you can feel this too. There's this deep yearning within those energies to get this message out to as many people as possible. And it doesn't matter what it takes. I can feel it. And so I feel like, I'm just being used in a lot of cases. A channeling will come to me, a lecture, a book, a chapter from a book. Once you're really in that field, where you want to be of service, all kinds of amazing information comes to you. It's amazing.
So, to sidetrack to something you said a little bit earlier, how did you come upon, because this is what I do suggest to people, right? So,
Yeah.
how did you come to deciding, and it is a decision, to learn speed reading?
Well, I was a debater in college. So I was in the original cross-examination debate. If people don't know about that, it's an incredibly weird sub-reality world that people, we like a sports team, we traveled all over the country. We would have competitive debates. I had a debate partner, and it was policy debate. And this is not like what you watch when you're watching a political debate. It has nothing to do with that. This is people literally speed talking as fast as possible. And in this paid for my college and my graduate school because I could talk really fast. I
So,
could
yeah.
read with clarity and not mess up the words, and I could talk really fast. And so it required, when you come into a debate, you need to know everything about everything. Because we,
Hmm.
we we would carry, before like we had phones and computers, I would carry these big boxes of paper around. And so we would have to, like, during the week, read as much in material about, we might meet these people and we might debate this topic. So I need to have
Right.
everything I can. I copy. And the only way for me to appropriately do it was to learn how to speed read.
Hmm.
And it was a revelation to learn to speed read, because what most people don't know is that we're always reading out loud, even though you don't know it. That's the
Yes.
thing. People think that we're supposed to read at a certain speed, and part of that is because so if you put your like hand, and while you're reading, you'll feel yourself like people are
Almost
saying it
like
out loud.
mouthing. Yeah. Yeah. Having the
Yeah. So
vibrations.
when I escaped out of that and like, okay, I'm not reading this out loud anymore. And then you start to get to that. I can read two words at a time. That becomes a word. You read a word and you think, that becomes a thing. A sentence could become a word. And then
Sure.
a paragraph can become a word. And I can scan the paragraph. And so it became this amazingly exciting thing. I could read a book a day. More importantly, I can grab a book and I'll know right away if it's good or bad, and I can,
Right.
and I can avoid it. And so there's some disadvantages to that. It's just like with anything, you want to savor it. You want to savor sometimes some sort of literature. I shouldn't be speed reading, and
Sure.
I'm losing some
Absolutely.
of the beauty of it. You don't want to slam that wine that you're going to drink. You want to sip it because it tastes good. And so I've had to sort of like learn that. And it's also affected my channel because I had, especially at the beginning, um, I would speed talk, and I would,
Right.
and people like, Brian, you're just going way too fast. So I have to really slow
Deliberately.
down,
Yeah.
and it sounds so slow
Yes.
for me to do that.
Right. Are you also a speed listener? Because like me, I have the same sort of issue, especially my first meditations that I put out. I put out 4 meditations, an insight timer, and the only great meditations way too fast. Like, why did you double speed it? Why did you
Yes, yes,
speed it up so much? And unfortunately, they had music under them, so I didn't handle. So I couldn't even
right.
redo them or anything. But
Yeah.
that's when I learned like, I actually speak way too fast most of the time.
I am a speed listener.
Yeah.
And then some people may not want to read. Some people listen to books. I mean,
Hmm.
and I think we've crossed the threshold now. More people listen to
Yeah.
books than actually read them. And I'm all about 3.5 times speed. You know what I mean? When I have a book, it's 3.5 times speed. And I recommend, hey, if you want to do that, because there's certain books, it's not
Sure.
appropriate to do
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
But you don't think you can do that. Listen to something at 3.5 times speed for a minute, and then listen to it at 2 times speed. And it sounds slow.
It
It's all
does.
in relative. I
Yeah.
even found a way to find the book I want to listen to. And I got, like a, an app on Chrome where I could bump that up to 6, and I really like get it going, right? I did that. I did that to the Bible.
Okay. Yeah,
I
that
was
makes
in a
sense.
job where I was doing, mindless information entry for my business. I had to like copy and paste addresses,
Sure.
and so I could just listen.
For
And so I
sure.
listened to the Bible over the
At
course of
six.
6 days.
At 6 times speed. Yeah.
Yeah. And I got it all. It was like in my head, like the whole thing was
Yeah.
like, what?
Great. That's
I mean,
awesome.
I had the beginning to end, like all floating around, like as it does with any book.
Exactly.
I love that, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, that's fun. That's really fun. I'll do that, like that's also why I like your channel. It's because I'll put on some of the longer meditations, your sleep meditations, and those I won't listen to at fast speed, but I
Yeah.
really enjoy passive learning or absorption learning. I'll even
Yes.
call it that
Yes.
because speed reading to me is you're basically like literally absorbing the page. Whatever
Yes.
energy's on there is already imbued in that page,
Yes.
and
It's
it's not
energetic.
even really reading. It's something else at that point. I totally
You've
agree.
said something when I love to go to like used bookstores
Mhm.
and I find books that give me a feeling and energy. I'll go home and I'll find myself just, it's like I'm just taking in this energy. It didn't even matter. It's an energetic thing for me.
Yeah.
I have stacks of books next to my desk and I feel like it's just I'm eating.
Right. It's like a smell. It's like you can't
Right.
stop it from giving you the essence of it. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So speaking of books, you've published several books yourself. You did eventually, even though you started with the
Yeah.
YouTube channel, you did eventually go ahead and write your book. So what was the first book about, aside from your story with the
Yeah,
situation?
the reality revolution, the mind-blowing movement to hack your reality is just about shifting into realities. And I try to go over the science and the technique of shifting into these realities, how to hack your realities, and I cover all the big ones, abundance and health and love and my own journey, and I try to share that. And then my new book is Activate Your Unlimited Power. I found something missing because I
Hmm.
love, with a lot of newer books, they're written in a certain way and they have a certain style. And I miss those old New Thought books from the
Hmm.
old days, like Think and Grow Rich, that have this evergreen sort of, that talk about more simple topics. One thing I have a tendency to do is I make things super complicated and I get into the weeds and I bring up all, and I'd written a second book that I didn't publish and it was just so much research. It was like so many quotes, and I realized I can't publish. You know what I mean? Like I was super fascinated with channeling and different and shift to the new earth, but it was just full of all these copy and paste from and me talking about it. So I stepped back and I said, how can I talk about this in a what are the truths, the deep truths to take away the complexity of it? And there's an unlimited, we don't even have to talk about physics or parallel realities. The truth of it is that we all have this unlimited power within us, that if we embody who we truly are, our divine self, then we have this unlimited power, the same power that created universes. And when you activate this power, we all always have it, but you can activate it when you come to a realization of it. That's where the miracle happens. That's where the big changes happen. And some of it, I spend a lot of it going over distortions. A lot of times, it's easy to follow politics and see that people are just looking for information to confirm what they want to believe. And
Hmm.
so I think a lot of times our power is limited by the way we distort things and the way we get collectively sort of manipulated, and we let things deter us, and we don't grant ourselves permission for this power. And so each chapter is designed to sort of activate this power with affirmations at the end, so that by the end, because I love to do something I've found over 2,000 episodes. There's a third category. I do hypnosis, I do meditations, but there's a third category that people really respond to,
Hmm.
and that's the activation, because you don't feel like I have to sit down and close my eyes and meditate.
Right.
And then that's kind of the feeling with hypnosis. It's something that you can just passively listen to while you're going for a walk, or it's in the background. And so I started creating these activations and it would work. I'm going to
Right.
activate this potential, this idea that can receive money easily. A lot
Right.
of people
Right.
are
Yeah.
struggling. And then suddenly people are doing it. So I started using some of those techniques and I was like, can do this in a book form that's an
Mm.
activation to activate the power? And so that was the goal, is if I could create a book using those old classic techniques, trying to trying to not make things too complicated
Sure.
and really utilize the hypnotic techniques that I had used to activate. So my goal is it's not just informational, that when you get the book that you walk away from it feeling an activation of this of the power. And that's what I've been excited to hear. Is that just the reading of the book invokes this process within of opening up unlimited potential. The idea that anything is possible is really the is my goal.
That is
Um,
so wonderful. And it sounds like a lot of the shift from, like let's say that book you didn't publish to
right.
this is informed directly from feedback with your community, from interacting with these people that you're serving and
Yeah.
seeing how things have changed and stuff like that. So how would you say that you've changed since you've begun this work? What's it given back, to Brian directly?
Um, I started out with this the sort of there's a masculine and feminine mindset that comes in
Hmm.
spirituality. And the masculine is I got to know everything that's going on. I need to understand all the dynamics of it, how this works.
Hmm.
And so I need to know the science. I need to know what a particle is doing when it does this. I need to know the science of the possibility of me shifting. And that, and my dad was a veterinarian, and he grew up on science, so I had to have an explanation. I need to know how. And
Yeah.
I realized that there's only a point to where, if I could escape from that, that's where the real power was to move away from the needing to know how and moving to a greater understanding. The feminine perspective is sort of moving into the heart and accepting I don't know everything. There's so much that I don't know, and if I can open myself and accept this power is the intelligence that knows the how. And that's been the shift for me is I'm not as worried about the how. I know it's
Mhm.
going to work, and someday I'm going to maybe understand it, but it's not as important. I would say that's probably the biggest shift from the beginning
Nice.
to now.
Oh, that's wonderful. That sounds like an activation in itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm sure that you could speak to that. That you've worked with clients, men and women. You
for sure.
notice, you know what I mean? They need to
Yeah.
know how the aura works or how the chakras activate or something,
Yeah, I suppose that, Vagrine's consistent reply is you don't need to know. It comes down to you don't need to know because you get to choose. You get to choose what effect it's going to have. You're the one in
Right.
control of how it works because you're creating that as you go along. Don't lock yourself into anything by making a decision about what's possible and what's not.
And it took me a long time to realize that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and I believe you're also an artist, is that right?
Yes. One of the things I've found to get into the right state of mind, to manifest my dreams, to be happy, to really create a reality that I love, is for me to be creative. And I have found, I've always loved this comment I had when I was writing fiction. I had gone to a conference. Somebody said this: um, if you're not creating, then it's like a bowel movement. There's a buildup. Like you people don't realize, like you meet the farmer that works all day. That person needs to create. My belief is deeply that everybody has this side to them that they need to create. That's because we are the creator, and
Hmm.
there's this aspect of us that needs to create. So when I started just I made a commitment. I briefly mentioned in my first book, and I talked about it in my channel. I made a commitment. I'm going to create something every day. And so at first, it has to be something else. So I'd make a stick figure.
Okay.
At the end of the day, it doesn't have to be art. I'll make a new recipe. I'll make a new kind of burger or pizza, or I'll try to create a song. And so then when I made a commitment, I'm going to create something new every day. By the end, I started to really get this passion to create art. And
Okay.
so with my wife, who's an amazing artist, um, we started realizing something I had learned from some other people I'd interviewed is that um, art is sort of capturing an energy in a
Hmm.
moment, and it becomes a broadcaster. So what's interesting, you go into a hotel and you see that art and it's like broadcasting now. When you reach a certain level, uh, of consciousness, you realize that you can use art as like a broadcasting energy. So if a therapist wants people to open up, I can create a painting that has the energy of opening people up and put it on the
Mhm.
wall, and they don't may not know. And so I started using these almost as sort of advanced sigils beyond my how much I love creating.
Yeah.
There's a million great artists that are going to be way better that have gone to school for this. But I started learning that with my wife, we could together imbue this energy into the art. And then
Hmm.
it became something more. Like I can put something up that reduces my anxiety. And part of that is my own awareness of it. I know I can engrave Grabovoi numbers and put affirmations into the canvas before I paint it.
Hmm.
And
For
so
sure.
I think it became like a technology.
Right.
People are not aware of it now, but people are in the future are going to be aware that the art becomes a sort of spiritual technology that you can use to shift your states of mind and create magic that they've been doing it forever. And so I think it's a part of the creative of the reality creation process.
No, for sure. It's definitely a language in and of itself, and something that we
Hmm.
have been distancing ourselves from in some
Yeah.
way that needs some, redirection back to it. And I know this because of, sometimes when light language will come through in writing or paintings, and I'm an artist as
Yeah.
well, painter, so I know exactly what you're
You know
talking
what
about.
I'm saying?
And I also
My
take some of my old paintings, like I won't keep all my paintings on the walls because they were for
Because the
that
energy.
moment to process that thing, to let go of that thing, and they're not meant
Yeah.
to be, exposed to a space to retransmit that thing over and over again. And then
My
others are deliberate creations where you go, okay, this is, I have a painting just over there. It's like the painting of infinite potential. It's these two
and you can
ballerinas and they're
feel it.
looking through a window, and you can tell
Oh,
they're
wow.
dreaming of growing up and becoming ballerinas, and it's just
Yeah.
it's got a great energy. But it would be great to get back to that. But I love this, that you're deliberately choosing to make something with a specific energy in it, and
Yes.
sort of manifesting that frequency, whether it be on the canvas, even just with intention, because even Bagrian says like intention creates reality. So if you intend
Right.
for the painting to do that thing, it's going
Yeah.
to have that implication and that action further on.
One of my favorite spiritual creators that I've learned the most from, so fascinates me, is Walter Russell.
Hmm.
Walter Russell is this person that he has a book called The Early Whisperings. He would go and like every year, and then suddenly he was like he was being spoken to by God and run through the forest. And the forest became like this. Like the book's amazing, but um, I mean, he was one of the inventors of figure skating. He knew like all the presidents. He was this amazing sculptor. He had painted all these art forms, but he also worked with Tesla and created an entirely new form of physics and and had a theory for the secret of light. And he explained that the creation process is it's a co-creation, so that when you're in that perfect creative state, it doesn't matter if you don't know anything about sculpting or art, you're creating with the creator. And if you reach that perfect point,
Hmm.
it doesn't matter what skills that you have, and that's when you're in that highest frequency of energy. And that's always inspired me that he didn't know how to be a sculptor. And all of a
Right.
sudden he's one
Yeah.
of the most famous sculptors. And it was because that he let go and allowed himself to have this moment where somebody's going to create through me. And he explained it like, God is so excited to like
It's
be a part
channeling.
of it is channeling 100%.
Yeah,
Art
it
is
is.
channeling.
Absolutely. And, I know that I guess that would be my first experience with channeling was when, I was painting more regularly, because you do
Right.
disappear and you don't know that, you have, like, if you let go, like I didn't train formally to mix paint colors or to actually
Yeah.
paint or to see light and dark. But at a certain point, I realized that it didn't, like you said, it doesn't matter, because when
Right.
you relax, it's going to happen, right? It just creates what it's going to create. And
Yeah.
if you can also let go of any sort of identification with your art, sort of like once the thing's done, if you're not going to go, oh God, I'm a terrible artist, or oh gee, that proportion
Exactly.
isn't correct or whatever. If you can kind of go, wow, something appeared from nothing, because that's literally what happens, right? Then
Right.
you can really allow that process to continue. And also writing books, it's the same sort of
Yeah.
thing.
We
Even,
need to
your
have a
meditations.
conversation about all these incredible books that have been written.
Yeah.
They're just pure channels. So my question is, and so when it's so many amazing fiction books, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
um, it feels to me like they're coming from a place where like I have this feeling like all fiction, there is
It's
no
real.
fiction. It's
Yeah.
all real. Like they're
It's
downloading some experience or some, and so the more that we learn how to channel, the more that we will create. And it's so exciting. And so, I recommend people that are watching this, try for 10 days. I know that you don't think you're an artist, but you are. And that's the thing
mhm.
that really a lot of people just, I've never really created anything. It's not my thing. Create something for 10 days. Watch what happens.
Yes.
Yes,
It'll shift everything. That's great. That's a great like
Yeah.
sort of takeaway for that. And speaking of, I mean, you did this exercise where you're creating every day, but you're also
Hmm.
creating all the time for your channel. That's also an insanely creative, endeavor. So
Yeah.
how did you, from day one, because I know a lot of people who are watching this are like, I need to start that YouTube channel. I need to get it
Yeah.
going. And they do. You guys, you absolutely do. I have a whole video about that. You need to start today. But
Yes.
um how did you go from, and maybe you already had some of these skills from your public speaking, from your other experiences in life, but how did you go from guy without a microphone and a camera to the amazing audio quality and the videos? I mean, you're like motion graphics. I want to steal all your tips because
All right. Let's talk YouTube. I can
okay,
talk about this.
let's tech talk. Okay, so how you
First of
doing
all,
it?
I owe it all to my son.
Oh
And my,
wow,
my son,
okay.
at the time when I first started, I think he was 13 years old. And I was like, I don't know how to edit a video. He's like,
Oh,
ah, there's no problem. He just showed it to me like he knew it within a minute. And he's like on Adobe Premiere. He started editing my early videos. And then he
wow.
showed me how to do it. And then I had a business. I had a business before that I had a bookstore, and I had somebody that worked for me that he was just he was amazing. Like he's the perfect worker. Like he did everything perfect. And I was like, I'm going to focus more on this channel. I don't know if I is there anything else you do? I was an audio engineer and editor for Wayne Dwyer and some
Oh my
different
God.
people, and I was like, oh, really? I would love it if you could, take my stuff and play with the sound. So I've been really lucky to have
hmm
like a professional sound engineer
Oh
that worked from the
wow.
beginning that took my sound. And that's why I was like, how is it possible that this amazing sound engineer just popped up, and it was like he was there for me when it was ready to go, you know what I
For
mean?
sure.
And so I've been lucky that I eventually learned how to edit and then just tried to explore every
Wow.
different style. When it comes to YouTube, I probably could get a lot more views if it just me talking to the camera. You know what I mean?
For sure.
But I'm still at the point where I don't want this to be about me.
Right.
And so, that's why I put graphics and pictures and elements because it's about the message.
For
Maybe I'll
sure.
start doing some in person more. And so there are people that are struggling. I don't want to I don't want to have to do my hair and you know what I mean? So you don't need to go on camera. That's the
Yeah.
first thing for people that want to do YouTube. It's not necessary that you need to go on camera. And then I recommend that you start right away and know that people are probably not going to watch those first few videos. And you need to commit to doing regular content every day or every other day for 2 years.
hmm
That's a long time, but you need to expect that nobody will watch any of those videos for 2 years. You're going to have 700 videos and nobody is going to watch any of them. Now, it's
hmm
possible that things are going to pick up, but you need to commit to like, I'm going to do this for myself. And what happens in the process of making these videos, man, you learn about yourself.
Oh yeah, you do.
You, even for people that their channel never becomes successful, you're going to come out of it like, I really understand and know about myself. This is what excites me.
hmm
And so over time, you're going to get better at it. As with anything that you do, you get better at it. You get better at reading. You get a better microphone. You start evaluating it, and so you will evolve over the process of it. And if you have a podcast, if you're able to interviews and coordinate with other communities, it will add to your channel so you can communicate and so then you start sharing their communities. So I recommend whatever your channel, if you can also do some sort of interview and meet, because one of the great things about YouTube, I get to talk to you. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like I'm Mr. Rando guy, but I have like, oh, I have a channel. I can talk to you now. So I get to
Yes.
talk to these incredible people.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
And that's what's so cool. I mean, I don't care about the views on that. So I recommend if you have a channel that's in this um, you know, don't be afraid to go on and have an interview and don't worry about how the interview does. And the frustrating thing is you can make this amazing video and put all your time and effort into it and spend hours and hours and you put it out and then nothing happens. And
Hmm.
so, don't get down when you do that
Yeah.
because sometimes people will rediscover that content.
Oh, they will. Yeah. Or you
You
can
know what I
always,
mean?
3 years down the road when you have a little bit, of a bigger following, re-download it, upload it with a new thumbnail, and bang, you've got some new
Right.
content that day.
The
And
thumbnail is
really, that's
important.
yes.
Unfortunately, you do all this work and then, I've we're able to test thumbnails now. It's super fascinating. You can do
Yeah.
the ABC test, right? And it's never what I think. A lot of times I'll have like three thumbnails, like what? Oh, that's the one that they liked. I have
Yeah.
avoided, if people watch my channel, the one thing I've avoided, I could have so many more views is I do it a little bit, but I'm not a big clickbaiter. I
No,
don't like
me
to
neither.
say, and there's this little voice that says, you got to do this, you're going to get more views. And I know I could, but there's
Yeah.
something about me that finds it cringy. And yes, you're probably going to see me do clickbait. So don't hold this against me.
No,
I
no.
might do it, but
It's okay because that's part of the experimentation too. And it's also, there's like, for example, when I get a negative comment or something like that, I'm so happy. I'm so happy I've triggered someone to the point of they've
yeah,
felt that they need to, because it means that that person who maybe has never had access to channeling before has
right.
seen my video by accident and it has bothered them so much. It has
Yeah,
affected them so much that now the next time they see channeling material, they'll be like, "Hey, this is like that weirdo I saw 2 weeks ago. What's going on here?" And it sparks some
yeah,
curiosity and it gets things going. So, we have to remember that, when you choose to be in service to others, right? You don't always know what that service is exactly going to be. And it
it's
might
true.
be that the person who only clicks clickbait because they have deep, deep fear within them, you say the end of the world is coming in your thing, and they go, "Oh my God, that's right. I need to know what's happening." And then they
Right.
finally find that soothing either in your voice or the music or whatever
Yeah.
is coming through. So we really don't know, but the day that you decide to put a super clickbaity thing on, for sure it's serving
All
somebody.
right.
Because otherwise you wouldn't have been
But I,
inspired to do it.
but what you mentioned also is something I talk about in my book, and it's something I went through. Like when you start your YouTube channel,
Hmm.
you're going to get negative comments. And so I'm one of those, at the beginning, if I have 30 amazing comments,
Hmm.
best video ever, you're amazing, thank you so much. And then this is the biggest piece of S ever. Your voice is terrible. You talk too fast. And all I would think about would be that. And,
Yeah,
and that's actually what's limiting your power. A lot of times
right.
people are looking for the negative.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And it immediately. So you will learn from your experience. Don't worry about the negative comments. You're gonna get negative comments. The more that you get, that's a sign that your channel is growing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that
Yeah.
that is great advice for anyone who needs to hear it. And, so would you say now that having, whatever risks you felt you were taking when you first came out and decided to share this wisdom, share this knowledge, did you have any fear at the beginning of like not necessarily negative comments, but oh, the people around me are going to think I'm a bit different, or what was the
Yeah.
process in terms of that?
Well, the truth is, I wouldn't have been able to do my channel or my book if my parents were still alive.
Oh,
And it's
wow.
unfortunate, but I know that I would have self-edited and said, "What's my mom going to think? What's my mom's friends going to think? What's my
Wow.
dad going to think?" And my dad had passed, and there's a sort of like freedom, like, okay, I can be myself.
Hmm.
And it's interesting. There's a part of me that I should have been more willing to, I lost a lot of time because I was worried about what other people, my friends, even my friends.
Hmm.
And it's that's one thing that everybody's gonna, if they're starting a YouTube channel, that you're gonna learn that you need to truly move passionately into who you are and not worry about what anybody else thinks. And
Yeah.
if you're gonna lose people, that you're gonna lose them anyway. They're not in your vibration. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But I have to be honest with myself. I would not have been able to write my book or talk about my experiences
Hmm.
or explore things spiritually if my parents had been alive.
Right. Okay. So,
Yeah,
that's all also okay. It's not necessarily the case that you're going to get over some of those fears, but
yeah,
the universe will work it out for you. But that advice in terms of like if you're going to start a YouTube channel, there are going to be people naysayers or,
yeah,
that advice is not just for a YouTube channel. That's for anything in life. If you
yeah.
really want to live your life, you've got to live it as you because there's no other way to do it.
So true.
Everything else is a dead end. Yeah.
So true. And what I found is that uh, people are jealous of success. And once you
Mm.
become successful with your YouTube, they will criticize you and try to bring you down because they feel some sort of lack
Hmm.
in this. There's a comparison. They like, well, I'm better than them, so I'm gonna.
Right.
And so it's all supernatural, and don't get caught up in it. Give
Hmm.
yourself permission to be who you are, and forget the haters.
I love that. Okay, that's really wonderful. And where can people find your next big projects? I know you've got the Activate Your Unlimited Power book. That's available where? Everywhere?
You can always find what's going on my channel.
Hmm.
And I have a website, therealityrevolution.com. And I usually announce things on my Facebook group. That's a good place to get updates. I always share my videos and talk about what's going on. That's one of my first places. I have a Facebook group at Welcome to the Reality Revolution. And, I'd love to know your perspective. I try to to share my stuff to all the social medias. I mean, I got an account on Tribal, on Instagram, on MeWe, on Twitter, on Blue Sky, on Spoutable, and
Oh my
you know,
God. You're checking them all out. Like it's just
so
too
I try to
much.
share my stuff on all that stuff,
Yeah,
but I
it's
don't know
it's
where.
too much.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, choose one or two. That would be my advice. One or two, and then when you feel like you want to take on another one, you do it one at a time because it's
Yeah.
just not possible. The technology is evolving. And the other thing is you can get locked into one that doesn't really, the audience isn't really into what you're offering. I find that YouTube
It's
is a
true.
million times better than Instagram, but I wasted a lot of time with Instagram trying to get all the images perfect and the
I I
dances and the whatever
I
it
can't
is.
do Instagram.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is, but Instagram, I've
it
never
it
been
just
able to
it's complicated.
create.
Yeah.
I post reels on there, and I put my likes and make comments, but
Just
I wish I
doesn't
could
get
know more. You
traction.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
My content is generally longer form
for sure.
content,
Yeah.
so that's just naturally how it is.
Yeah.
So
It's because you're not like lip syncing in a mini skirt. That's why.
exactly.
That would get likes and views. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So what would you like to leave any words of wisdom to people seeking, people finding? What's next? What do you think's next in terms of
Thank you.
enlightening humanity?
The thing I always want to say when somebody asks me that in an interview like this is that there's somebody out there that's watching this that feels like they've lost hope. There's somebody out there right now that's struggling and they don't think that there's a way out of what you're in. They think that it's hopeless. They're struggling. They don't think there's a chance. And I want you to know that I've been there, that I promise you there's a way out, that it's going to be okay, that you can overcome this and that you are more powerful than you know. And if you just take another breath, another step, give me one more day, I promise you that it's going to get better and you have the possibility of unlimited miracles that are available to you. And I know it's hard. I know it seems hopeless, but it's not. I promise you, if you just give it a day, if you give it a day, just give it a few more breaths, things will get better and you have the power to make it better. You don't need somebody to give you money. You don't need somebody to do anything for you. Once you just take a little bit of time and realize that this power is within you, you can do anything that you want. And that's all I want you to know is I promise you that you can overcome whatever it is that you're going through.
I love that so much, and I'm sure that's going to hit the mark for somebody out there. And you're going to change yet another life with the
I hope so.
powerful words and wisdom that you share. So thank you so much for coming on the Some Kind of Mystic podcast. It's been my absolute pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us today and diving deep into the world of the reality revolution with Brian Scott. If you'd like to connect more with Brian's work, I encourage you to visit his site and consider picking up a copy of his new book, Activate Your Unlimited Power. It's a powerful guide to shifting realities and unlocking your true potential. Before we go, I'm thrilled to share that on January 1st, my Vagrian membership will officially launch and doors will open. This membership site will be bringing you exclusive new Vagrian content and transmissions like never before. I'm offering 3 unique membership tiers: Amethyst, Labradorite, and Moldavite, designed to fit any need or budget. I'm currently accepting limited applications for the Moldavite tier, and those who sign up for the January quarter will enjoy a very special discount. Head over to www.jpherman.com to find out more about the membership site right now. I also have some amazing, incredible guests lined up for future episodes of Some Kind of Mystic. So be sure to subscribe to catch it all. And of course, I'd love to connect with you, so share your thoughts in the comments and let me know what resonated the most in today's episode. Until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and keep discovering the mystic within.
The one thing the people don't know about me, I'm a big fiction writer, and then maybe someday you'll see my books. It'll probably be in a different name, and I'm super excited about that. Like you, I get channelings, but it feels like somebody's telling me a story. I'm excited. Maybe someday you'll get to read my story. We'll see.
Oh, I'd love that. That's awesome. And I also see the Mad magazines behind you. They're on the rack.
I love Mad Magazine. I'm a huge fan. I have the #1.
Oh my
and
God.
I've always loved the Mad Magazine. So yeah, I'm a big fan of that.
Awesome. Yeah.
I'm a comic book. Yeah. Okay. That's another thing. I'm a huge comic book collector,
Ooh.
a sci-fi fan. And I absolutely, I'm a nerd. I'm a super nerd. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that stuff. I love that.
Oh, great, Brian. Thank you so much for connecting today. I've had so much fun.
Thank you.